Well, happy new season, everybody. Another League One campaign is upon us, and lots of questions to ponder in what looks an ever-strengthened League One. How will the relegated clubs fare with their spending power? Birmingham, Huddersfield and Rotherham coming into the third tier to splash the cash. Can they bounce back at the first time of asking? But how will the promoted clubs get on with Stockport, Wrexham, Mansfield and Crawley coming in to enhance the division with resources and or style? But how will the playoff defeated trio of Bolton, Barnsley and Peterborough respond to that heartache? And can they go strong again? But there's mid-table sides looking to improve, like Wycombe, Reading and Wigan, that could go stronger this time around. So lots of questions to discuss, lots to debate, lots of excellent managers to look at as well. Plenty of questions to answer. We'll do our best to answer them in this season preview. Yes, welcome along to this season preview of League One in 24-25. We've already had a full set of summer deep dives over the course of the summer, so go and check those out if you're keen about any of these 72 clubs in particular on YouTube and on Spotify. Get yourself subscribed. For now, for this bumper edition, I'm delighted to be joined by my regular co-host Ed Walker, an expert on all things League One and League Two for that matter. I'm delighted to be joined by Colin Yates from the Fanzone podcast of Bolton Wanderers. I'm delighted to be joined by Jake Tonge from That Football League podcast, not this one. And I'm delighted
just getting the motivation. I know what's coming.
Absolutely.
Bring him in.
I'm joined by Matt Farley from the Stevenage Football Club podcast. Well, quite the quartet to be joined by this evening. Thanks everyone for your time. Really appreciate you joining us. I guess I just wanted to look at basically challenge some of each of our predictions for League One. You can see them up here. Quite a lot to get into, but I wanted to start by opening up for the floor, and in particular, Jake, any particular predictions from any ones that you'd like to?
Well, I wonder what's about to happen now.
As if it started with Jake as well. What were the odds?
What could he possibly challenge here?
I'm not going to ask anyone about Lincoln. I'm not.
No, you're joking. Come on.
No.
So you're all feisty in the WhatsApp group now.
I'll do it later.
Yeah, he's beginning to big
I'll do the
Jake, tell everyone about the tears. Come on.
I'm gonna go. Do you know what? I'm gonna go to Matt Farley actually.
Oh,
Matt Farley has got Wycombe Wanderers in 20th. I'd like to know why, because to me, Wycombe are under new ownership, which I can understand might be a reason to doubt them, but they've got one of the richest owners in the league, probably. They've got, in my eyes, a really progressive young manager who, and the way Wycombe finished last season, I think they were probably one of the best four teams in the league form-wise. What makes you think they're going to go from that to just surviving when they've added considerably well, I think, in the window, the likes of Danudo, who's a magnificent centre forward. So I'm intrigued to hear your thoughts on Wycombe, Mr. Farley.
Well, you know what? It's something actually that the not top 20 lads said, and I really agree with it, right? About the division. And I think the division is so good this season that teams that are trapped anywhere from 20th all the way to probably about 12th are still really good sides for the level. I don't think, if you're caught in that period of 20th to 12th, I don't think you're a poor side. I think you're a good side. It's just the way that the league is. In my opinion, I just didn't think that Wycombe were going to have that much of a progressive season. It was just my opinion. I didn't think that they were going to have one. I think the league's tough. I think the thing about the division as well, I think there's going to be some sides that you think that will do very well that probably won't because the league's so good. And I think possibly Wycombe fall into that category for me, in my opinion.
Jake, you mentioned one or two.
Was it because you were?
That was very good putting the shields up, by the way, Matt. I appreciate that. That was good effort.
Yeah. I thought that was
Put the shields up early. Go defensive. That's what we want. You can tell you're in our XFL team, can't you?
Yeah, exactly. There's always going to be some, odd predictions, but yeah, I just think that's my honest opinion about it. I think the league's very tough. I think there's going to be sides that might be in that category that, others don't agree. But the division's so difficult.
Matt, can you be honest with us now? Did you put the rest together then realise you need to put Wycombe in somewhere instead of stuck them in 20th? Because I would understand it if you said yes.
A Farley thing to do, to be fair.
No, but do you know what it was? And you boys would agree. And to be fair, me and Carl, I think Cole said it earlier, we've got like the top 5 bang on. I think.
Identical, yeah.
That's unreal, by the way. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? But no, I think there were the obvious standouts for me, and they're up the top and they're in that category. But look, Wycombe weren't part of that.
Jake, sorry, just to go back to what Jake said, Matt. Jake mentioned mentioned 1 or 2 signings a second ago. My observation with Wycombe is that the signings seem to indicate a potential change in style, possibly. So ultimately, will that then reflect on possibly maybe solidify in mid-table and push on, because obviously the new gaffer seems to want to change the Wycombe way, doesn't he?
I don't know. I've been quite impressed with the business. I think Dan Udoh, when he was fit and firing for Shrewsbury, I think probably arguably top 8 strikers in the league when fully fit. I think you've also got Tariq Backinson, who's got a promotion at this level with Sheffield Wednesday, albeit it wasn't a massive part of that team. He was still a part of the squad. I think Nathan Bishop's a saga that's gone on with Wycombe for quite a while, but he's certainly proved that he's capable in the level below when it was at Mansfield, I think, and I think he could make the step up. And then Alex Hartridge was solid for an Exeter team that were pretty middle of the road last season. So I don't look at any of the signings and go, crikey, that's a huge risk. Do you know what I mean? I think for me, I think they're going to continue to play the progressive way. Alex Hartridge is a really good passer of the football. Tariq Backinson's very tidy when it comes to keeping the ball, and Dan Udoh is just going to run the channels. I think he provides something different to what they had last year, alongside Kone, who sort of broke into the team at the back end of last season. He's really exciting. I'm really excited for him. I just think that he's going to give him a slightly bigger dimension up front and one that's more mobile and probably more prolific than Sam Vokes that they've had in recent years anyway.
Listen, I don't agree with Matt for what it's worth. I'm just saying. I've got him in 14th, to be honest, mid-table.
That's where I've got him. 14th.
Interesting. Well, I feel like the elephant's still in the room. Then, Matt, Lincoln City 13th.
You have put
him 13th.
I thought I put you 11th, 12th, didn't I?
13th, mate.
Well, because that's a massive difference, isn't it?
Yeah.
Let me have a look.
Unless Gab's typed up wrong.
Look, it was around there. I thought I had him a bit higher.
Below Stevenage, mate. What are you smoking?
Wept. Hang on, Gab had us 12th. I'm only one place above Gab's prediction.
But where's he got Lincoln?
Yeah, look. This is my opinion. And do you know what, Jake? Andy Blair shares the same opinion. So I'm speaking on behalf of Andy as well.
What a surprise.
No, I think Lincoln, you could potentially have a very exciting season. But,
and the rest.
And I'll say but, I think you could have a very exciting season. I'm not saying I don't think you can get in the plus. I actually think you can. Right? I think you'd be up for it. But
what's 13th?
And I know when I was having a look at your squad earlier, and I could see obviously Freddie Draper, etc., who I think is a very good player, and others. I'm not sure you'll be as prolific.
That's a fair
point. In the final third.
That's a fair point.
And that's why I put you there. But I think Freddie Draper's a good player. I think you've got some really good players, and you can have a very exciting season. But I just didn't think. It's depending if you get Taylor back. In my opinion, I think if you got Taylor back.
God, I'm sick of hearing about his Taylor fella.
You will be when he runs you ragged, Cole.
Oh God!
Honestly, though, I think if you got him back, you'd be right up there. But for me, I'm not certain of a top 6. I don't think you make the playoffs without him. Yeah.
I think what Matt should have done is picked his top 6, picked a spot on Thorn, put everyone else in 12th, and just said, "Yep, Just gone with that.
The loss of Sorensen, your keeper to Millwall, Jake, and obviously Joe Taylor is not going to help though, is it? Let's be honest.
No, it's not. But I think when you look at the goalkeeper department, Lincoln have got it right pretty much every year for the last 5 years. We've had Carl Rushworth, who was an exceptional keeper, Alex Palmer, who's now a regular at West Brom, Josh Griffiths, who's stepped back down into this league but played at West Brom, and then Lucas Jensen. I think the signing of George Wickens will go down the exact same.
Is that the
route.
number one this year then? Not G-Cock? Not
G-Cock. No, G-Cock will be, I imagine, will be a dependable number 2. But yeah, I imagine George will follow the same form. And then you speak about Sorensen. That's the one position that I do worry about. I still think we maybe need to recruit there. Deriqua is 32, but he's played in the Premier League. He played the day for he played for Burnley the day we knocked them out in the FA Cup, actually, which is a pretty full circle sort of thing. But I think what Deriqua adds is, yes, he's a very physically fit and will get up and down, not as much as Lass and with the quality of Lass maybe, but also for the experience. He's one of our only players, maybe in fact our only player over the age of 30. So he'll bring in some much needed experience and help the coaching team rally these young lads, because we've got a really young team. So I take your point on board that it's difficult to replace those sorts of quality of players, but I think more often than not, you trust Lincoln's recruitment to be able to do so.
God, do you know what? I hate to jump in. This is a real ego-hurting episode, isn't it? I feel like, do you know what I mean? Like, everyone's kind of
We'll be in a minute when you ask Cole why Stevenage are going down.
Oh, Cole!
Sorry, yeah. I was going to...
Gab, shall we go? Should we leave them to it?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, you're not needed here, Ed. You're not an expert.
See you later, guys. I'm off.
I was going to add about Lincoln. Let's be honest, they've got the nucleus of a good squad from the outside looking in, but for me, they've kept the most valuable asset, which is Skubala. And I think if things don't go according to plan, then he could end up leaving, couldn't he? Because I think he is a valuable asset to the club. Let's be perfectly honest.
He's got another 3-4 years on his deal. And we've kept
the thing is with deals for managers, I don't think it counts, Jake. I think if a club wants a manager, they'll pay whatever they need to pay.
But we've kept Arahan as well. That's probably the biggest. That's the biggest plus. We've kept the best holding midfielder in the league for me by some distance. So for me, I think we're absolutely fine. Yeah.
He put out a best statement and we all just went silent.
Why do I have Stevenage 21st?
Why do you have Stevenage going down then?
Because Steve Evans is going to be a big person.
Literally.
To replace. Literally. I think he is, and I put it in my notes for Rotherham, where I think they're going to finish. That siege mentality that he's a monster of that in here that he creates, and the whole division against him and his team, everything against them. I just think that when you lose a person of that stature, with all due respect for a club like Stevenage, I think it's a recipe for disaster. From the outside looking in again, I also think the players still in place obviously want to play a certain way. I think the new gaffer, from what I can see, might not be able to get that type of tune out of them players as well. Because obviously under Evans, you played a certain way that, I mean, there's no right or wrong way of playing football in my book, but yeah, that's kind of the reason why I think you'll struggle this season, Matt, unfortunately.
No, that's a fair point. I think for us, one thing that I'd say is I think there was probably, if you look at the back end of last season, a noticeable drop off. And I think since that point, we've kind of realised that the players kind of lost it for Evans. Does that make sense? And I'm going to be honest with you, I disagree with if we had, and I've heard other people say this, if we'd had Evans this season, it would have been great. I don't think it would have been, to be honest with you. I think he kind of lost the dressing room a little bit, and I think that was shown in the results over the last 2 months. And I think we did need a change, oddly. But in order for us to keep a lot of the squad as well, I think if it would have been Evans, I think you'd have found probably a lot more would have probably have moved on. the team are very invested in Alex Ravel, and really pretty much the main reason why we've been able to keep I say the whole of the squad, but the bulk of the squad is because of Alex Ravel and that continuity. And it's a real difficult one for us because I get a lot of the people's predictions. I've listened to a lot of predictions where a few people have got us in the bottom four. And I understand it. You look at Alex Ravel and there's a guy there that, has managed us before and then did all right, actually, for a year and a half. But ultimately, it didn't work out for Revs. And it was too early for him to be in management. He comes back to the hot seat and people automatically look at that and think, oh, well, hang on a sec, you're playing in this league and you've got this guy here that, hasn't been successful before in the role. But he's put together a really good squad. And actually, when I look at our squad and I see that we've kept the bulk that really were quite successful last year, and then I look at the signings we've added, we've got a better team. And I think we'll be fine. I think we'll be all right. It's a tough league, don't get me wrong, but I think we'll be fine. When I look at the squad, when I look at a player like Charlie Good, who, all right, granted, hasn't played a lot of football the last 2 years, he's a cracking player for the level. There's some really good signings there, and I think we're going to be fine. I think we'll surprise a few people again, but I think we're going to be just fine.
I hope you do, Matt. I hope you surprise everybody on this call, and especially myself, because I put you in the relegation zone.
I was happy to be here, chaps. You know what I mean? It's a great league. It's a great league.
Well, I was wondering about Ed's prediction of Stockport County finishing fifth. Was an interesting one that I'm quite keen to bring up. If I can just raise.
Yeah, it's quite mixed thoughts on Stockport, aren't there?
Yeah, Ed's got Stockport. I mean, I think a lot of people have Stockport in the top half, but I'm just wondering why you've made the step of putting them fifth, like I believe not the top 20 have done as well.
This is my bold call. I'll happily admit that it's the one I'm going out there most for. It's just having observed this Stockport project over the last few years, not just the League Two, but even down the National League, recognizing the progress that's being made. This club has got a 7-year plan to reach the Championship that they launched back in 2020, and at the start of what is season 5, they've got one promotion left, and I see no reason why, at the very least, it can't continue and be complete really within the 7 years. I'm not necessarily saying playoff winners right now, but I believe in this idea that this guys will pursue the top end. They are well financially backed. Let's not kid ourselves, they're not. They do have good backing behind them. It's allowed them to invest and be a financial juggernaut, particularly in the 5th tier and even in the 4th tier to a degree. Maybe not the financial juggernaut because they've been alongside Wrexham on a couple of occasions in those seasons. But they have got good investment. They've been working hard to develop Edgeley Park, get up to a good quality ground. It's always been quite an historic lower league ground, but it'd always been nice to have a roof over the railway end, for instance, and get that going a little bit more, take it a bit more into the modern day. So I'm sure there are plans indeed to work on that as time goes on. And in terms of squad investment, I've just loved so many of the deals so far. I think if there's one thing I maybe still have a question about, I think that defence needs to prove itself at the moment. With the goalkeeper situation, we're kind of back where we were 12 months ago, where we said, surely Ben Hinchcliffe has hit his ceiling now. He can't keep doing it. And we all kind of thought, was Jordan Smith going to take that starting spot from last year? And by the end, Ben Hinchcliffe, who's been with them since the National League North days, was once again their established number one. Now he's got competition from Corey Adai, who I don't think is going to take up all the remarkable positioning that he was at Crawley, but has nonetheless seen really good growth in the last year. It's a fantastic pair of goalkeepers to have, and I'd be really, really impressed if Hinchcliffe does indeed keep that number one spot ahead of him across the majority of this campaign. Defensive-wise, the addition of Sam Hughes is superb. I will speak so vocally about him. I think he's a very accomplished top League One defender. You remember Colin Shaughnessy last year? Left Burton and not really that well thought of going to Portsmouth, title winner with them. And I think Sam Hughes is better than Colin Shaughnessy. So there is potential for that to be a really impactful signing. Fraser Horsfall should be, again, a commanding presence in the centre, but needs to prove that. Ethan Pye's had fantastic growth in the last 12 months, going from essentially being a lonely out Gateshead to coming back and establish himself on the left side of the back three. He's going to have to grow again, admittedly, to get up to the next level. So defence is the area I still think needs to prove itself to get to the level. But you look into midfield, having Cameron Connolly added into there, having Lewis Bate, adding Lewis Theorini. Like to see a bit more consistency with the fitness of the wing backs, particularly Macaulay Southern-Hales, who's always a bit hit and miss. He just seems to have quite injury-prone problems, sadly. And Ryan Rydell missed a chunk of last season likewise, but forward options, Isaac Oluwathi when he gets back to feature. If Louis Barry returns to the level he's at before that injury, he's going to score a lot of goals for them this season. And the whole thing is meshed together for my main reason of confidence by Dave Challoner, who is a manager I just have so much huge admiration for. His track record is insane. It is the envy of pretty much everyone out there. Promotions at every single club he's at. He goes into teams and he gets them winning games. I think, if I remember hearing right, he's never finished at below the playoffs in his single season in management. So, coupled with all that group of players, coupled with the manager who just has this incredible record of just getting teams winning. Massive buzz around Edgeley Park anyway, as they go back into League One for the first time in, I don't even know how many years. It might be 2010 when they were last here, something like that. I think they're one to watch. And I want to kind of get big on them early at this stage and then see how we go from there.
A lot of Stockport fans will be very happy with a mid-table finish, though, wouldn't they?
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's be honest,
absolutely
truthful.
But I think the ambition of the ownership, as I said, who are targeting the Championship in 7 years and would like to get out of this league as soon as they can, I think there's massive ambition here, and I think there's a potential for them to maybe even upset the apple cart a little bit, because I don't think Stockport quite in the conversation compared to some others in the division this year.
Good argument for.
Anything anyone wants to challenge from the predictions?
Let's have a top end talk. I know we've all gone for Birmingham as title winners. I kind of ashamed no one's thrown the curveball of having them second, so that would have been quite fun. But I suppose it's a reflection really of what we all think is it the most easy prediction in the 92, if we're truthful? I mean, that team is ridiculous. They're going to win the league by a distance. They're going to go to the points record, which I think is Wolves 103. They quite frankly should be getting it, and we'll see how they go. I kind of said with you, Gab, before, it feels like a 2-24 this year, not 1-24, because the title win just seems pretty obvious, really.
But the game isn't played on paper, is it? Let's be truthful.
No, but have you seen how much money? Have you seen the players they put together?
I understand that. But I think they probably are banking on Alfie May to score a lot of goals for them.
It's more than that, individuals, mate. I think Emil Hansen, their winger, looks great. Willem Tor Willemsen looks like an absolute monster in the centre of the park. I think there's going to be some really good individuals in this team. It's a strong Championship side playing in League One. And I think, to be fair, even though, let's admit it, the four of us here, outside of Gab, want them to not do it. We want them to miss out on top 7 because it would be hilarious. But we've got to be realistic about this.
Do you know what I was going to say? Could you imagine if they don't have a great start and the first 2 months don't go to play? Could you imagine the pressure, though? Say, we get to October and they're like 10th or 9th and it's a bit...
What I was going to say, if you lose Alfie May to injury, for example, that is clearly the focal point centre forward. If you lose a player of his caliber at this level.
Well, does that maybe present a chance that Ramel Donovan to maybe grow a little bit more and emerge? Lukas Jutkovic will still somehow chip in with goals as an impact sub. That option for Birmingham to have, if it's not working, just to get the big guy on and just attack crosses. He has been doing it for years and years in the Championship, and I'm sure he'll do it again in League One. So Birmingham's first, as we said. Can we have the top 2 conversation then? Because I think, if I remember right, Gab and I have gone for Bolton. Jake, I think you've gone for Huddersfield. Matt and Cole have gone for Rotherham. Does the Lincoln lad want to talk first as the individual in this?
Yeah, I can talk about Huddersfield.
Go for it.
You got excited then, didn't you? I saw a little kind of...
I was
Michael Duff fanboy down there.
Might get a chance to peek in it. I think Huddersfield are, and are clearly a phenomenal outfit. And under Michael Duff, who I know Gab shares the same sort of premise as me, is probably the best manager in the division. I think his track record of getting teams to where they want to go, and his teams progressively get better. You think of when he took over Barnsley, that opening day, I think they lost 1-0 away at Argyle, and then from there to the end of the season, they were completely unrecognisable in the way that he got them to press and he got them to attack with such force. And I think at Huddersfield, with a bigger budget, with better players and maybe than he had at Barnsley. Some of them are the same, aren't they, in Herbie Kane? But I think he can recreate that. And for me, a lot of this is based on the signing of Sorensen, because there is no better right wing back in the league than Lars Sorensen. His energy, his output last season massively improved, and I think he'll carry them to certainly a hatful of points. I like Herbie Kane midfield. Anthony Evans will add I'm really intrigued to see how he gets on, actually, because he's been the main man at Bristol Rovers. He's not going to be the main man at Huddersfield. So I'm intrigued to see how he sort of gets on going in there. And then obviously Reece Healy up front scored goals for fun at MK Dons. Maybe it didn't work out for him at Toulouse as much as he would have liked, but I think he can score a hatful of goals as well. So yeah, and plus they've got the money of the sale from Jack Rodoni, haven't they? That I back the new sort of not ownership, but leading team around the manager to go out and spend wisely. And if the rumours are to be true, if they're going to try and sign Joe Taylor on a permanent, then well, we might as well all pack up and go home because the top two sorted. So that's my argument for Huddersfield. A lot of it relies on Duff, but a lot of it.
The thing for me with Huddersfield, the immediate challenge that Duff has, he's got an extremely bloated squad at Huddersfield. They've got a lot of, they've had a lot of people in the Championship, and you kind of thought they might clear out and been relegated, but a lot of them are still there. He's got to dip into that squad and find an 11 that works. I think he'll find it because it's Michael Duff. He just will. But that's part of the reason I'm edging Bolton over them. I think it's between those two, basically the second. It would be my guess across season. Cole likes that indeed as well. I have more confidence at this stage of how Bolton are going to look than Huddersfield are, just because there's so many players that Michael Duff to pick from at the moment, and if Everton can set the ground going quickly, that potentially leaves them as the team to be caught in second place.
Whilst that might be construed as a negative, I think it can also be a positive, because that means that whilst he's got more players, he's got different qualities to add, and if he finds,
I'm not sure all of them are really should be at Huddersfield, to be truthful.
I know. I think some of them certainly will be able to add a bit of, especially they're playing a division lower. I think a lot of teams coming down, players that look poor in the Championship can often look pretty decent in League One. So I think if you get enough decent players and then have your star players sprinkled in there, like Bolton would have done last year, your star players in Baxter, Santos, McGoma and Charles, if you can sprinkle 4 or 5, 3 or 4 or 4 or 5 of them in a team, then I think you're pretty much on for a really good season. And for me, under a manager like Michael Duff, who is starting off from a better standpoint at the start of 24-25 than Ian Evatt is, considering what happened in the playoff final, then...
Jake, I don't know.
No, that was just one game, though.
No,
that was just an off day for Bolton. They just did not turn up on the day, and Oxford had game plan work perfectly. I'm not going to shoot Bolton down just for losing that.
I think it's different because I think Bolton, although they were horrendous in the playoff final, they have got a synergy and some.
I forgot about that. Do you mind?
Sorry, Cole. It's just the truth.
Welcome back, Cole.
Sorry, mate. It's just the truth.
So they've kind of got a continuity from last season in terms of, other than the wing-back spots, which I think needed to be upgrades and has been to an extent. I think their spine is.
Seen anything of that Schön yet, Cole?
Yes,
we like it. Do we like it?
I went to Port Vale on Saturday. He's going to be a star, that kid.
Good. I like the sound of that.
You can tell he's an international footballer, put it that way.
Yeah.
But this is the thing, because I think Bolton needed basically a couple of tweaks, but the operation is basically already in place. Whereas Huddersfield, I think there's a lot of moving pieces. They've probably got too many players. They've only been able to release 2 players from the squad that was relegated last year. I think it's going to take Michael Duff a bit longer to work out his best 11, and it might even take a second season for them to really hit the top gear.
And I would also add that I think Bolton have got that extra bit of cover now that wasn't there previously. We felt a couple of times, like for instance, their goalkeeper situation, a little bit without Baxter, they kind of felt it a bit. Now you've got Luke Southwood, who is just an excellent alternative. It's quite outrageous, really, to have those two as your goalkeeper unit. 100%. Your options are there. Last year, George Johnson's back, I hope, for long, because he's been out for a long period. It's going to feel like a new addition. Chris Torino added to defensive. Chris Torino added in. It felt like quite a bit last season. There was a dependence on Ricardo Santos in the deal, and it feels like that dependence isn't quite as much anymore with the options around. Same midfielders before. Clyde Lolos, please get him to Crawley level, because he was an absolute monster there, and I loved him under Scott Lindsey. I'd love to see him play good again. And then just the same, all the group of strikers, and if Aaron Collins hits the form I want him to hit, that's promotion material for me.
Aaron Collins last season, where he obviously came in January, and he didn't take long to gel. I think if you give him a pre-season, I think if he manages to actually strike a partnership up with somebody, hopefully Dion is fit now, so that's good news. Then it could be magical stuff, to be fair. And you've got Adebayo to add to that as well, and some of the players that we've been being linked with, likes of McAtee as well from Luton and whatnot. So yeah, I mean, I don't know why I put us third, to be honest.
I was very disappointed in you, Cole, for doing that. I thought you'd have more confidence. All of us have gone confident with our own teams.
I think the reason
Gab's got to win the league. Look at him. He's got big with these boys.
The reason being is we, as Bolton fans, we've been guilty over the last couple of seasons, especially last season, of being a little bit too overconfident. And I'm trying to like rein my confidence in a little bit, Ed, in fairness. Just to kind of like, because I think believe it or not, I do think it kind of it gets to the players as well, that pressure and that expectation and that assumption that we're going to be higher in the division. So personally, I'm a bit like, let's take a step back here. Let's realise what Rotherham have got at their disposal in terms of the personnel that they've got, the manager that they've now got in place. And I think we might miss out. However, I did caveat that to say that, you know, if we end with the window strong, and this is the only concern about doing these predictions before the window closes. I mean, we have to, obviously, because the season's out on Saturday, but especially clubs like ours who've got backing and are able to attract top talent, things can change very quickly, can't they? So I may very well, you know, revisit this at a later date, but by which time it'll be too late, of course.
We're mixed on Rotherham, aren't we?
Yeah, I wanted to have a bit of a debate about the Millers. If anyone wants to open this, well, I'll open this up to the floor.
I just think under Steve Evans, I think. Do you know what, actually, Gab? Who said it? It was Jimmy the punt with you on Sport Life. Yeah. And he said something and he went, clapped his hands and he went, Steve Evans and Johnson Clark Harris, like that. And I thought, do you know what? And I just think, I think they'll have enough to do it, you know, him coming in there, a bit of money, Raggett at the back. I like the look of Rotherham squad. I think the identity that they'll play with under Steve Evans with the players they've got, I think they'll be really good. Yeah,
can I make an argument for Johnson Clark Harris not actually being as good as people think? If I look at Steve Evans's side, Stevenage side, Matt, that you saw in 22-23 that won promotion from this level, you had Jamie Reid and Danny Rose, who didn't score that many goals necessarily that season, but they were constantly hassling and harrying defences. And I think for a Steve Evans side that is happy to give up possession quite a lot because they go forward quite early, you need that constant aggression against the ball, even if it's not a particularly high press. And I think with Johnson Clark Harris, you're not really going to get that kind of work ethic. So I actually think that's going to be a problem for Rotherham in terms of engagement against the ball.
Yeah, and I do get that, but I think if Johnson Clark Harris would have played in our team, he would have scored loads of goals under Evans' style. Well, in my opinion, I think the way you
wouldn't have been able to you wouldn't have been able to impose yourselves on games in the same way without Rosie and Reedy.
And I do get that because Rose and Reed were high pressers and they worked hard. Don't get me wrong. I just think he's so good in front of goal, and I just think Steve Evans. And don't get me wrong, Nombe's one to watch actually for goals. He's a good player, and actually, do you know what?
Quite keen on the Oss song that's coming from Forest on loan.
Yeah, very good player as well. Yeah, really good player. I just think, I think for me, knowing that he went there at that specific time, I think he saw an opportunity to probably take him back up this season. And I think he'll do it.
Maybe there's an element to this. Maybe there's an element to this to me, though, that realises Rotherham were really, really bad last season.
Yeah.
Really bad in the Championship. And that is a big improvement to make. I realise, putting my own predictions together, I've gone against my general rule of Rotherham and Wigan, which is if they're stable, they go up. I've got neither in top six. So I'm kind of going against that. It's my increased confidence in teams like Stockport and Lincoln, for instance, at this stage, that's leaving them just outside. But to be fair, my group between 5th and 8th, interchange them, however you please. That's going to be a pretty fun top 6 battle, and hopefully a bit of buzz with Charlton as well would be nice.
As it is, please, Ed.
Sorry, was someone were you going to jump in there, Matt?
Go on, Jake.
I was going to say, you have to remember that when Rotherham lose a game, Steve Evans is going to be that bloody moany in the press. He's going to get in all the referees' heads and go, well, they're all going to give penalties to Rotherham every 5 minutes because we all know what happened. When
is the league going to be against Rotherham now? Is that what it is? Do they not want them up there? They don't want them up there. They don't want us up there.
Do you know what? I was having this chat with the chat today. We were talking about this for us this season, and we were going, God, you know what's going to be really nice this season? To not get all that rubbish from interviews and stuff like that. Like even something silly as this, right? The chat swapped it in our WhatsApp chat. There was a picture of Alex Ravel doing training earlier for the kickoff on Saturday. And one of the chaps went, you know, isn't it nice now to look at an aesthetically pleasing manager of ours rather than You know, someone that's looked like that for 2 years. Like it's a nice change. Do you know what I mean? Like, get that element. Like,
If I were a Rotherham fan, I'd be buzzing with that appointment. Me, like, you'll just create that siege mentality. You know, like you said, Ed, they were so poor last season. You know, they'll start afresh with him in charge, and that's why I put him second, because I just think he's just a monster at this level, literally.
So then, anyone else want to take on someone else's predictions?
Can we have some Barnsley chat, please? Because we're all very mixed on this.
I'd love to have
particularly you.
Sure.
Take the floor, please.
I like Barnsley's midfield, but I think they've got a very imbalanced squad. I think they've got question marks in goal. I think they've got question marks in defence, and definitely question marks up top. So I'm worried about Barnsley, and that's in terms of their best 11, let alone in terms of depth. So I think they've got 3, 4, 5 players that I look at in League One and think, they're top end League One players. But then I also see 6, 7, 8 that I'm like, I'm not sure they're going to be quite up to the level.
For me,
I can't see where the goal's coming from.
It's the strikers that's the issue. I like. I don't mind the defence. I think if they can field a back three of Josh Earl, Donovan Pines, and Javanier, or whatever his bloody name is, I think that's a decent back three and a top 10 back three. And then the midfield is just dreamy when you think about the options that they've got in there with Connell and with Matty Craig, who was amazing for Doncaster last year.
It's a great point, Ed, but also you could argue Walsall have got a better goalkeeper than Barnsley.
Did you mean Jake?
Yeah, Ed. It's a good point, Ed.
Sorry, Jake.
I didn't even say anything, and I'm making great points.
It's all right. I'm not wearing yellow, but it's all right. But
should be.
No. But yeah, I look at the front line and I go, that's the concern. They have Waters, Cosgrove, and young Aidan Marsh. I think Waters and Cosgrove scored.
Jallo's a talent, to be fair, right? I think.
Yeah, he's a talent now, Gab. The way
I watched you on Red All Over, Gab, and I understand there's always that issue of putting in a youngster and putting too much pressure on them and making them the main man, isn't there?
So he's better than Aidan Marsh.
Yeah, absolutely. But does he start in front of Cosgrove, who had a good end of the season? I just don't think. I think they need strikers, and pretty rapidly, as Cole said. And if they get strikers, then they potentially could fire themselves into the top 6 conversation.
It's mainly targeted at you, Gab, to be honest, because I think we all kind of feel they're not going to be top 6 level this year, but you have gone with a really low position.
17th,
very low compared to the rest.
I do understand why that looks low, but I think I've got question marks over Barnsley as a club, because sometimes they've got the right fees for their players, but other times, like with the James Norwood sale, they sold him to a National League club, and I'm a bit worried that maybe if you get to January and Barnsley aren't in the top 6 conversation, are they going to sell Adam Phillips and Luke Connell and actually end up with a much weaker squad and possibly plummet? Because I'm also I have reservations about whether Darrell Clark is right for this sort of project. I think he's a great League Two promotion specialist, and I would back him to be a survival expert in League One, like he nearly was with Cheltenham, or even in the Championship. But I think that for a promotion-winning side, you've got to have a bit more tactical and technical nous that I'm not sure Darrell Clark necessarily has. So I think there's a mismatch there.
I like him personally. I think he comes across really well, Darrell. I think he's got a good football philosophy as well, from what I can tell. But it does stink a little bit of missed targets, based on what you've just said, Gab. You know what I mean? Like they obviously sacked the previous manager in the playoffs last season, which was a ludicrous thing to do, of course. And they were linked to some foreign managers who obviously it never really came to fruition. So that kind of stinks of, let's get somebody who's English, let's try and build a bit of a project. But like Gab just said, it doesn't really fill you with much confidence, does it?
I think they're going to need better wing backs than what they've got at the moment. Although they have brought in Georgie Jed from Blackburn, hopefully he works a bit of an unknown quantity there. For me, there's half the team's kind of basically in question. So go on.
If they bring in Davis Keeler-Dunn, that they've reportedly had a bid accepted.
It's not really a striker, Jake.
But he adds forward creativity, and I think that would help them ease that gap a little. Would that bump them up in your eyes, Gab, at all if they brought him in?
It would certainly help, yeah. I think they need a couple of strikers, maybe a quality 10 like Keeler Dunn might help. But I think, yeah, for me, it's out and out strikers that they need. And definitely, I think they need something. They need a stronger options at wing back because I'm not sure, like Corey O'Keefe is really top half League One standard. I'm not sure Barry Cotter is. I don't really think either of the goalkeepers are up to the level. So, I think the defence is okay, but it definitely needs strikers for me. And I also think that I'm not sure I'm in a place of trusting the club as a structural entity just yet because they've not got a sound, experienced football person upstairs. They've got one guy who is kind of going in from the rugby scene. They've got, who's it, somebody, Anne, I can't remember her name. Anne Key or someone like that. I'm not sure, not entirely, but she's come over from America. So anyway, so they got lots of people who are kind of new to English football, and I think the inexperience could be a bit of a problem as well. And I'm not sure there's an alignment there with what the club wants and maybe what Darryl Clark wants.
I hope they read all over, lads, are not watching this.
They were. They turned off now. They've gone now.
Come at me, guys.
You never seen them again on this.
Gab's not allowed on there again after this goes.
Sorry,
on.
Andy. We love you, Andy.
We do.
So any more for any more in terms of
well, let's go down. Let's go down the bottom.
Yeah.
Generally, those four are quite similar in terms of personnel.
Well,
I think
Cambridge, Shrewsbury, and Crawley. Everyone's got them in the bottom four.
Are we all making a mistake with Cambridge again? Are they going to pull this off again somehow?
No. I just don't think they will. No.
I'm not sure Gary Monk's got the. I don't think he's the type of manager that you want in a relegation or a bottom half League One. I don't know. It just
Ryan Loft. I'm just not buying it.
I'm not
Some
sure
of the recruitment's good though, like Corey Smith and Richards.
I'm still kind of keen on Shane Lavery, I've got to say. I know it's contradictory what I've said because I put them bottom four, but I just
there are parts of the team, Ed, that I like. Like I think
I agree with you.
Like Corey, Kel Watts. I think Kel Watts is a good.
This is the problem, isn't it? I hate League One's predictions because you got to do bottom four, which is an enormous bottom four. It's an enormous relegation zone, and you don't find four teams you dislike. No. I don't dislike Cambridge's squad, and I don't dislike Northampton's squad either. Yeah. But I've got to put two in there, so I just have to. I'm trying to go with my gut a bit more this year because I tend to overthink this, and my gut said those two straight away, so I'm just going with it.
That Lavery
gut before is normally tend to land actually.
That Lavery is not. Has he scored like some?
There was really high hopes for him when he came from Linfield from Northern Ireland. There was a really high hope. He's a bit of a good instinctive poacher, and I think he started quite decently last season at Blackpool and just tailed off, and it just wasn't right for him. And that I'm still quite wary of that idea that I think there is a really good instinctive goal scorer in there that if Gary Monk unlocks, that could be a real difference maker for them.
And I can speak obviously quite comfortably with regards to Jake Tonge, and he isn't going to score enough goals for you at this level. So
they tend to play him in supporting roles anyway. I think that probably reflects that.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Gary Gardner will score home and away against Blues though, Gab. So it's the new Lloyd Dyer. I'm calling it now.
You know, this is really strange that Gab's team's in our league now. I just can't get my head around it. Like normally you're like a neutral.
For 12 months, Matt. For 12 months.
yeah. Dude, that's weird now, Gab. It's very odd. You're like a neutral space. Do you know what I mean?
Sure. Do you know what? The office is closing, so I've got to wrap things up now. But listen, it's been great to chat and share all the predictions. So thank you so much for joining us. Go check out the Stevenage Football Club podcast with Matt Farley. Go get following Ed Walker at Edward_W97. You can get following the Fanzone podcast that Colin Yates is part of from Bolton Wanderers. And check out, of course, that Football League podcast represented by Jake Tonge. We'll be back next week for another EFL debate on League One.